Hello, my kings and queens. How are you? How you doing? Hola, ¿cómo está? Holla, holla back, player. What I would like to talk about is if somebody bring up the conversation about driving, what about driving? When are you going to drive? You never talk about driving. Even though you don't talk about driving, doesn't mean you don't think about it. But I guess they'll take that as verbatim. You like what I did there? I'm always full of surprises. So even though, so don't get offended if you say, even though I don't talk about it, doesn't mean I don't think about it. I think about it every day. See, people can't read your mind. People will look at it as, even though you don't talk about driving, you know you think about driving, but when you don't bring it up, they look at it as the same thing as you don't talk about driving or you don't want to drive. So I know it could be tough. I know you thinking about you make a mistake and then people, the teachers, the examiner, they yell at you. See, you are beating yourself to the punch. You're beating the negative before you drive. How about you beat the positive before you drive? How about you say, even though the teacher or examiner may yell at me, they may yell at me 7 times in a row, but I'm still gonna drive. Uh, I'm still smart, I'm still intelligent, I'm still clever, I'm still resourceful, I'm still genius. That's something that nobody could take away from me. And you can use the 7 keywords too when you feel defeated, when you feel busted and disgusted, when you feel annoyed, when you feel frustrated, when you feel that you can't do certain type of things. Just come up with 7 adjectives. Once again, genius, resourceful, clever, intelligent, smart, uh, analytical, witty, meaning you could turn the negative into positive. If somebody, the teacher, examiner yell at you, you could come up with a witty one-liner, with a witty joke to lighten up the mood, to break the ice. That's what I recommend that you do. Because here's the thing, you are smart. You are driving smart. You're good with the GPS, but see, you are behind the scenes. You're behind the seat driver. You're a passenger driver. See, if you being a passenger driver, that's not enough because you're the driving assistant. You're assistant to the driver. You just being a driver helper. You being a team player. But now sometimes the driver might want you to sub in and be a leader when the driver can't make certain jobs. And you could do it too. You understand this is really important. It's good that you know it in your mind about how to change the tire or how to jumpstart a car. But can you do it physically? It's good that you know how to parallel park in your mind and you know how to drive and reverse drive, straight highway drive, and change lanes in your mind. But can you do it in person? That's where it comes. Can you do it physically? That's what the driver and examiner want to see. It's not about what they want to see. You're doing this for you, not for them, not to please man or impress man. You're doing this to impress God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. See, that's good that you know all these things in your mind, but you're 40% there, you're 50% there, you're halfway there. To do the other half, you got to get behind the wheel. See, because the thing is, you're incomplete, and what might happen to it, even though you know in your mind, if you don't use it, if you don't use what you know, use what you learn, then it's gonna go away. You're forgetting to, you have to keep on relearning over and over. In other words, you have to keep on learning how to change the tire when you haven't did it before. You have to keep relearning in your mind how to jumpstart a car. You have to keep relearning in your mind how to parallel park, how to 3-point turn, how to put gas in the car, how to start a car, how to drive in reverse highway drive. You have to start it. You have to relearn it all over again. So to make it permanent, a long-term thing, you gotta put it into your mind, from your mind to real life. Say it with me. I'm gonna drive in my mind to real life. You're halfway there. It's similar to you doing the 7 times thing, but instead of you doing the 7 times thing, you do it in 3 times. 3 times in your mind. So when you do it 3 times in your mind, you gotta implement it 7 times in real life. It's the 4-7-8 technique. Go with me with this. So you can practice it 4 times in your mind. You can drive it 7 times in real life, and then in no time you'll be able to drive it by yourself 8 times. The 4-7-8 technique. So you breathe in the fear, you hold, you breathe in the faith for 4 counts, you hold that faith, then you breathe out the fear for 8 counts. But then you can turn this into a real life thing. Once again, so you practice in your mind 4 times, you drive in real life for 7 counts, and then you'll be able to drive by yourself for 8 counts. In real life, I can't get it better myself. So you could turn the 4-7 478 technique from breathing in your mind to breathing. So you breathing in your mind the 478 technique, and then you breathing out the 478 technique when you drive. You breathe in when you practice it, the 478 technique, and you breathe out when you do it, when you drive. The 478 technique. And once again, you could do the 3-7-10 technique, where you practice driving any driving situation in your mind, and then you could practice driving with the driver teacher 7 times, and then you could practice driving by yourself for 10 counts. You can even do the breathe 3 counts, the hold for 7, breathe out for 10 counts. I know it's not as rhythmatic as the 4-7-8 technique, but you could turn this into a real life thing. And remember what I told you with the amusement park too. Um, if you can go on all those big rides, those 100 foot, 200 feet, 300 feet, 400 feet rides, you can drive in real life. If you can handle the amusement park, you can handle anything. If you can create your own driving amusement park, you don't have to go to the amusement park, where you could create your driving day park at a park or in the parking lot, or in your drive for yourself. You can handle anything that life throws at you. You can do this. Therefore, you knowing how to drive in your mind, but not really driving in real life, is similar to you driving without your ID. You know how important it is. So look at it as that. Therefore, when you practice in your mind, when you know how to drive, how to prepare for everything, you are, it's similar to you driving, and then when you drive in real life, you have an ID. It goes hand in hand. It goes together. So you got to put it all together. Stop half doing stuff. Stop half stepping stuff. Stop second guessing or half guessing yourself, thinking that you can't do certain things or simple things. But people younger than you, way younger than you, are doing so every day. If they can do it, so can you, and all of you. And I know at first it's gonna hurt like heck when you know it every day in your mind, and the teacher, the same one wants you to implement it by driving with them for real in real life. You may not know the simple things, or you may have a hard time following the basic details, because if you're saying is thinking that the teacher and the enemy, the teacher and examiner is the enemy, and if the teacher go off, then it's your cue to go off. The teacher could yell at you 10 times or 7 times in a row, or the examiner could yell at you 7 times in a row, as long as they don't call you Cupid, as long as they don't use curse words. They could yell at you 10 times for that matter. I know people don't like to be yelled at, but if it's gonna wake you up a little bit and give you more passion and more vigor and more courage and more boldness, then see where it goes. Ask God to help you. If the teacher, the examiner yells at you 7 or 10 times or 3 times, that doesn't mean you yell at them back. That doesn't mean you do tit for tat. Vengeance for vengeance, evil for evil. That's what the teacher wants you to do. Don't follow the tough teachers or examiners. But if it's too much for you, if they keep on yelling at you, if they yell at you more than 7 times, more than 10 times, maybe you could take a break or use another teacher or examiner who may be a little bit more understanding or more patient. But remember, at first, you may seem, when you drive in real life, um, you may seem as if you don't know the difference between gas pedal and the brake pedal. When you do, deep down inside, you do. You just got to give it a chance. You got to get used to it for you to become true to it. See, you're true to it in your mind, but you're not true to it in real life. You're true to driving in your mind, but you're not true to driving in real life. So it's gonna be a little tougher. Your body might show resistance. Your foot might start shaking. Your hands might start shaking. Your heart might start beating. Just take your time, and the stuff will surface. It will come to your mind. The 7 things that you know in your mind is gonna come in real life when you give it a chance. When you get used to it. Look at it this way. When you get used to it, you don't lose it. When you get used to driving, you don't lose it. When you get used to parallel parking, you don't lose it. When you get used to angle parking, you don't lose it. When you get used to highway driving, you don't lose it. When you get used to city driving, you don't lose it. When you get used to 3-point turn, you don't lose it. See, if you don't get used to it, then you may lose it. Lose all the driving essential skills in your everyday life. So Getting used to it is very important. You're not getting used to it for the teacher or examiner. You're getting used to it for yourself, for God the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And if you want to, then you can do the teacher and examiner out of respect as a last resort, as honorable mention. But don't put them at the top because then it's as if you driving for man. And then that's where the pressure comes from. That's where the fear comes from. That's where you hold on to your past mistakes and you bring it to the present and the future. You forget that the past. Focus on the present and the future. See, you're doing too many things. You're juggling the past, present, and the future. Just focus on the present and the future. Focus on the current situation where you juggle two things or one thing. You can just focus on the current situation, and the future will come later. Therefore, the time is now, not tomorrow, not next week, not now. And that brings me to my next point too. You can do the future if you want to, but then when you think about the present and the future, then you say, it doesn't work right now. Then I could drive tomorrow. I could drive next week. I could drive next month. I could drive next year. See, so you can do the future if you want to, but be careful with that too, because then you might procrastinate. You might keep on pulling it off. You might keep saying, "Oh, I got time," but tomorrow's not promised. So be careful with the future. Use the future at your discretion. Use your future for discernment purposes. Use the future as positivity. Don't use the future as avoidance, as being sneaky, or as for fear to hide behind your fear, or to hide behind the teacher examiner yelling at you 7 times. So use the future for your benefit, to drive independently, to teach others how to drive, to not pay the bus to take you for faraway places, or Uber or a taxi, or to walk in the rain. So you can use the future as the benefit. Use the future similar to how you would go up to heaven with God, Jesus, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. See, use the future if it's going to help you that way as an incentive, as an eye on the prize. Use the future to make excuses or to justify you not driving. Yeah, you understand? I couldn't say it better myself. And another thing too, I know you got to be mentally prepared for driving too. So I recommend that if you're not prepared for driving, then give yourself some time, not too much time. Maybe give yourself a day, a week to get ready, to be mentally prepared for everything, mentally prepared for you driving in tight spaces, or the teacher examiner giving you 2 or 3 directions, or the teacher examiner yelling at you occasionally, whether it's 7 times in a row or 7 times, and they allocate the yelling, or if it's the other drivers might honk the horn, or be a little aggressive. So you do have to be a little bit prepared for it, but don't um, overthink it. Don't overanalyze it. Don't be paranoid with it. Don't be OCD with it. With your thinking. It's up to you to think about how you're gonna set yourself for driving. The minimum, at least 3 times. If you want to, 7 times. 10 times, but no more than 10 times, because then that's when you talk yourself out of it. So I recommend that you prepare yourself for driving 3 times, 3 to 10 times. But the reason I say the 7 times, because it's a balance. It's a balance. It could be more or less 7 times. It could be more than 7 times. It could be less than 7 times. Meaning you could drive with the teacher examiner maybe just 3 times. You might just need 3 practices to drive with the teacher or examiner. You might need 7 times of practice with the teacher examiner. You might need 10 times of practice with the teacher, or 7 times. So that's why I like the 7 times technique, because it's a balance. It's in the middle. It's a moderation of the minimum to the maximum. But here's an analogy. Just as you're prepared for, sometimes you have to raise your voice at the babies 7 times in the classroom, and sometimes they may talk back to you 7 times, but then you implement the consequences 10 times. It's the same thing. If you prepared for you maybe raising your voice 3 times, and you have to no, if you have to implement the rules 3 times, raise your voice 7 times, and then discipline them 10 times, so be it. Same thing with the ladies. If sometimes you might sometimes you approach the ladies 3 times, and they may say no, but then you approach the ladies 7 times, and then you get 10 numbers or 10 dates with the ladies. See, that the 3-7 technique could be not just with driving, but with the ladies, with the babies, with your online experience, with your window business. It can be anything related to life, not just with driving. You know how I like to connect everything, no matter how unrelated it may be. So you can use this 3-7 principle tech 3-7-10 principle technique on all aspects of your life, not just with driving. It's something for you to think about, for your food for thought. But this is really important. No more incomplete thoughts where you think about driving, but you don't talk about driving and you're not driving. See, that's what Satan wants you to think. He wants you to think that your thoughts is sufficient and you talking about driving and driving. But that's a story from the pit of Satan. So you complete your thoughts by implementing action and not caring about the outcome. By not caring about the teacher or examiner yelling at you 7 times, or the other drivers or the pedestrians looking at you and thinking that you don't know what you're talking about. That's big. It's bigger than that. Just like driving is bigger than you. You doing this for future generations after you. You doing it. You the driving is bigger than the teacher examiner yelling at you. It's bigger than the drivers and pedestrians looking at you. Your driving future, your driving potential is bigger than the teacher examiner yelling at you. It's bigger than the passengers and the pedestrians looking at you, thinking that you don't know what you're doing. I know I repeat myself, but I want you to get it. But if you think that the teachers yelling at you, the examiners yelling at you, the other drivers, pedestrians staring at you, being bigger than your potential, bigger than your driving capabilities and your abilities, then it's gonna always be like that. That's when you talk yourself out of driving. You're gonna say, my driving abilities is bigger than the teacher yelling at me, it's bigger than the examiner yelling at me, it's bigger than the pedestrians staring at me, it's bigger than the other drivers honking the horn at me. It's way bigger. As a matter of fact, they're just a tip of the iceberg. Right. And another thing too, just like I tell you to look at the big picture of if a lady says no, she rejects you. But what about the other picture of you keep on going and then once again, 3 ladies say no, she rejects you, but then you try 7 more times, and then you get 10 ladies who will finally say, okay, they'll give you a chance to go on a date with you. See, that's looking at the big picture with the 3-7-10 technique. Just like I want you to look at the big picture with talk to ladies, and then with the babies, I want you to look at the big picture with the 3-7-10 technique with driving. Look at the big picture. They'll just focus on. See, when you focus on the teacher examiner yelling at you, or the other drivers honking the horn and people staring at you when you're making driving errors or simple driving errors, you're looking at the small picture. So the 3-7-10 technique is to help you look at the big picture to bring it all around. When you are driving like this, you're bringing it all around. You're looking at the big picture. See, when you focus on the teacher examiner yelling at you, you just looking at the small picture. You just driving like this. But when you focus on the big picture, which is your driving abilities, and you are driving like this, it's just something to think about. I know I was repetitive, but it's necessary. It's essential. See, just like I repeat myself, but I really don't care about the outcome or care. I love you, and I care. I do care about people, but even though I'm repeating myself, I don't care what people think. That's how you have to be behind the wheel. Even though you might repeat yourself, but you don't care what people think, you got to apply the same principle to driving, and then God will take over. God will use you exceedingly abundantly, or else but fail. So once again, one last time, I want you to say to yourself, even if you have to say it 7 times in a row, you say, my driving abilities is more important than the teacher yelling at me. It's more important than the examiner yelling at me. It's more important than the pedestrians staring at me is more important than the drivers honking their horn at me. It's more important than the younger drivers getting their permits driving by themselves. That's more important. My driving ability is more important than young permanent drivers driving and driving right now, and I'm not at the moment. But if you think that the teacher, the examiner, the pedestrians, the other drivers, and the young permanent drivers are more important than your driving abilities, then they got you. They're gonna eat you up, and that's where it feels as if you can't achieve the achievable, because driving is quite achievable to me in my personal opinion. So it's a choice. You either could think that your driving ability is more important than the teacher and examiner yelling at you, or your driving ability is less important than the teacher and examiner. In other words, you're making it about the teacher, examiner, emotions, them yelling. You're making it about the um, pedestrian staring at you. You're making it about the drivers honking their horn. You're making it about the permanent, uh, the, the permit drivers. How about you make it about your driving abilities being more important than everybody put together, and most of all, make it more important about the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. See, when you make it about the teacher, the examiner, driving, when you make it about the teacher, the examiner being more important than your driving abilities, you take your eyes off of He and onto into the world. See, you saying that the teacher and examiner driver is not more important than your driving ability, but it's more important than God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit. And that's what Satan um, um, dwells. That's where Satan abides, resides. That's where he'll play in your mind once you be in that island and feels life a little, or you thinking that you can't do this. So that's why I keep on. I'm pressing this real hard. I know I'm pressing this harder than usual. I want you to get it by not losing it. You don't lose it by you getting used to it, which is the driving, which is the ladies, which is the babies, which is life itself. Thanks for listening to me for 23 minutes. I know I was a parakeet, but it's necessary. So even though you said, why repeat? Maybe a parakeet, but I'm necessary. It's something for you to think about, something for you to sleep on, your food for thought. Thanks for listening. Please have a blessed day. See you later. Stay blessed. God bless. I will talk to you later. God bless. My kings and queens.